they brought up family. Sorry.
Okay.
We need something real quickly, and I'll let you go. Alright.
How much are we getting paid for this?
Nothing. It's just educational in nature.
I got
Volunteer work. Volunteer.
Okay. So as far as families go, Crystal just brought up families. So families set. Oh, this is perfect. Families bring up different dynamics. So what I want to ask, like for example, Jason, you said that you're in Canada now, but you grew up for some years in Ireland.
Oh yeah, like for my whole life. Yeah.
So how do you think the family dynamics influenced who you are? And Amy and Crystal, do you think family plays a role? I think family definitely plays a role.
Yes.
How does it play a role? In developing
And
our psyche.
behaviors and yes,
Oh, it's
definitely.
huge. Yeah.
How did it influence you? Tell us your situation. Whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Okay. Well, like you just see huge similarities between the way like my grandfather behaves and I behave, or even my mother behaves now. I see like similarities that like span through the family, and like I don't know if it's like partly genetics, and obviously a lot of it's like social conditioning, but like you just see these amazing similarities in how like throughout the generations. Even the way like I laugh is the same way that my dad used to laugh, like kind of just like shrugging your shoulders and stuff, and just like little things like that.
Did you have a nuclear family, extended family? I mean,
A kinship family.
I have like one side of my family. We had like eight. I had like 8 aunts and uncles who each had about 8 kids. So there's like about 50 cousins. So, like
Wow.
a huge amount.
Huge.
Yeah, it was really cool. So everywhere, like in my school, there was like 2 of my cousins. Like I'd always like encounter my cousins all around the place, which was really cool.
Was race ever an issue in your family? Or just what did they say about
no,
race?
'cause everyone in Ireland was white. so it
But
wasn't
there
really.
are black Irish, right?
Anglo-Saxon.
Black Irish means like
More
I
like
think,
dark hair.
Yeah,
Dark
like
hair.
maybe the way you guys look. Yeah, so it's like people with very like pale complexions with black hair. But it, yeah, no, it was just all white people up until recently. So
And so you're saying that the introduction of another group that might have done what?
no, I didn't say that. I just like race wasn't really a thing growing up in Ireland. It was something you kind of see like from TV and other kind of countries and stuff. But like in Ireland, it was all white people up until about 10 years ago.
What happened
And
10
then-
years ago?
The economy took off. There was a huge amount of jobs available, so they opened up. They went to all these different countries and like recruited people to come over. So all sorts of different cultures came
Like
over,
from which?
like Africa, Kenya, Eastern Europe, Asia, like everywhere. Literally, within the space of like 10 years, it became like the same as other European countries in terms of like how many immigrants were coming in, which was cool. It was great because when I was growing up, it was just like Irish people, so it was one culture. It was a little bit narrow-minded. There was like one way of doing things, and that was it. So if you didn't fit into that, it was like it was different, you know, and it was like noticeable. But now there's all these different types of people living in Dublin, so it's cool.
So did you have a racial identity that you grew up with or no? Because everybody you saw was pretty much the same, you said that you didn't have to think about it.
No, yeah.
Except from TV. What did you see on TV? This is interesting.
Well, I guess like there's there really like no Jewish people in Ireland. There was no black people up until like 10 years ago. Or like there would be like you'd see somebody on the street and it'd be like unusual. So yeah, it just wasn't really an issue. And then it was only I guess as I got older, I started noticing all these different cultures and the kind of attributes that they had, like different types of people and what they were like and stuff. And then from traveling and everything. Obviously, that's just a progression of like as you grow older, you become more aware of different things, different societies, different ways of doing things. But I think that's great because like I was a bit bored with just Irish culture. I didn't feel like it fully encapsulated everything that I wanted to experience, and so like seeing all these other ways of living was cool. You know, you just see there's all like I associate these different things as well.
So let's say somebody was black African and their parents immigrated to, they're both black African.
Mm-hmm.
They immigrated to Ireland. The person grew up that, you know, maybe they had 2 kids, let's say, a boy and a girl.
Yeah.
What would you consider them in Ireland?
Whatever, Irish. Like, it wasn't really an issue. There was like a few scare stories. They were like, oh, there's so many immigrants coming over, like the usual kind of thing. But there wasn't really any problems. Like there was no crime really. I was perfectly happy with it. I thought it was cool. It's cool you see like these like young black kids rapping with these like young white Irish kids, and they're like doing this rap music as well, which like never would have happened before. There wasn't really any problems. Everyone, I think like they were treated pretty fairly, so that helps.
But would the person be fully accepted as Irish?
Um,
Or would there still be a barrier?
I guess it might depend on how they behave and stuff. Like if there is like a pretty strong Irish culture and a way of doing things and a way of speaking and everything. So like a lot of immigrants who come over like develop the accent and they like integrate pretty well. But yeah, I think it really a lot of it's just based on like what you bring to the table, and if someone's like a nice person and they're like a bit of a character, they're interesting. I don't think Irish people have any problem with them.
I'm also going to venture to guess that it's the open-mindedness of the family. For example, you seem pretty open-minded and you like to travel and explore other cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of helps with your worldview,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the idea of assimilation and accommodation. Let's give Jason a round of applause. Any questions for Jason? All right.
But maybe later.
Jason, thank you for staying for this last interview, and I appreciate that. I didn't mean to hold you up. It's fascinating to think about it. We'd like to interview Amy, and we'd like you to join us in here. Amy and Crystal. Amy, would you like to share? What are your thoughts on family? What you mentioned in the last clip, you talked about your father. What about this idea of family? So the thing is, Amy, what are your thoughts on race, ethnicity, nationality, culture, family dynamics? I mean, in the U.S. we're very, very heterogeneous. But even I've noticed situations where people have an idea of what somebody is from a particular culture. I mean, with your travels and being in an open-minded family, what is your experience been with that? What do you consider? When you go to a particular country, do you think there's a particular type? Like that somebody is a particular type? For example, one thing I've wondered too is I've heard from students, just as an example, if they're in one Asian country like Korea, they tell me that when they go to Japan, that they still are not accepted as fully Japanese, even if they're born and raised there, because of the Korean surname. And what I want to know is, obviously you're of a different ethnic background, but I'm just along these lines, what are your thoughts of what we were just talking about with Ireland, in terms of fully being accepted and somebody being of a country, and do you think family dynamics have anything to do with that? Like, does a family teach somebody, this is what this is, and this is what that is?
I think it's a mix between your peer interactions and your family, but I think my family definitely had a huge impact.
How did they do that? Explain.
Well, okay, I don't even remember why, but when I was a kid, my parents told me that I was a quarter Chinese, and for some reason I cried, like I thought it was some horrible thing. and then they had to tell me, oh no, you should be proud of it. Then I was fine with it. When I was a kid, I got called yellow a few times by other little kids, and my parents they'd explain, no, that's stupid. That's trying to, I guess that intersects with race, but also religion too. I just don't want me to touch on religion.
Go ahead.
Right now.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, I had gone to church since I was 12 years old or something, and I was raised not really going to a particular church with my family, but I sort of got this kind of craving for religion and to explore things like that. So I went to a Catholic service with one of my Catholic friends, and I went to Sunday school with her, and sometime during the Sunday school session, the teacher said that if you do not go to Mass, then you go to hell. And when I told my parents, they were furious. And they had to, talk to me, no, you don't have to think that. So family kind of, especially as a kid, they pretty much just have to tell you one way and you accept it, And another example is my mom. I remember I was in 6th grade and I was really angry at this one girl, and I called her should I say the bad word? It's a bad word.
If it's a bad word, probably not.
A B-I-T-C-H
Okay, got it.
or an S-L-U-T. And I was like, oh, don't ever call another woman that. And for some reason, I was just like, oh, okay. I just completely accepted it. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Those are some examples. I can't really think of other things on the spot right now, but
Let's give Amy a round of applause. And let's go to Crystal. Any questions so far for Amy?
All I got is like I find that different like obviously families like pass on their values to their kids and stuff, but like I got pretty different values to my grandfather. Although I respect a lot of his stuff and I've learned from it, but like it does change as generations go on. Like obviously people probably have a lot of like racist grandparents and stuff, and they're like, oh, you know, but it's just like it just changes with each generation. They like take on board what they've heard and they have their own spin on it, like, which is nice.
Society,
Yeah.
culture, it changes over time. Or what Herbert Spencer would say, as society is an organism that evolves.
It's social Darwinism, Herbert Spencer.
No,
But he also
but people
is famous
think that
for
Darwin said that, but it was Herbert Spencer, the sociologist, who said that.
But
that,
social Darwinism.
that the survival of the fittest is from Herbert Spencer. Yeah,
Oh, it is? The
yeah,
original?
survival of the fittest comes from Herbert Spencer.
Not
he
the
looked-
socially fit only?
It wasn't Darwin or anything. It was Herbert Spencer who said that.
Wow! Hey!
Yeah. Herbert Spencer, the sociologist, was the one who said that his theory was based on how society is an organism that evolves over time, and it is always consistently changing.
Tell us about your thoughts on that family dynamics, right? Well, I still think that some people think that there's one type in some countries. Like this person, like when I went to Brazil, for example, I was arriving with a host. I stayed with a host family, and they thought Brad Pitt was going to walk in the door. I think too. I'm like, who the heck are they expecting? You know what I mean? I'm me. But they had been watching the movies, and they thought that everybody from the U.S. had blonde or blue eyes. That's what they did. And then there were a few other women and cousins. They were sitting at the table, and they went like this. They kind of liked me, and they said, "We have no problem with him." That's what they said. And I'm like, "Thank you." I feel like because at that time you have a bruised ego a little bit. You're like, can you imagine being from a country and then people are expecting you to look different from what the media says because they don't see enough. I mean, how can you represent everybody?
Stereotypes.
Well, why did these happen?
It's a cultural construct, like race or ethnicity. Like from my studies and anthropology, race is a man-made creation. There's no such thing as race.
But we're all from Africa.
We're all originating from Africa, but the whole superior, pure-blooded of whatever ethnicity you come from does not exist at all. And the whole concept of I always tell people that we're not born hateful, we're taught to be hateful or ashamed. So the whole aspect of discrimination, being racist or bigoted or whatever is taught. We are not just pre-programmed into this. And Confucius actually, or Neo-Confucian philosophers even discuss about, and other philosophers too, Western philosophers too, a whole bunch of philosophers talk about this too, that we are naturally programmed to be already having this knowledge that we have to bring out, and we're not programmed to be violent or hateful. It's culture or society that affects our behavior and involves it. And the whole Herbert Spencer's idea about society is always consistently changing and evolving, and our behavior evolves along with society. And you can see it throughout history. So what hundreds or thousands of years ago, what was considered normal, what we look at would be like, what the heck? Like, that's not normal, or that's not cool, or
Doesn't
good,
make
or whatever. It
sense.
doesn't make sense. Like, oh, men dressing very feminine and wearing tights and heels. Like, what the heck, And what's considered feminine and masculine? Every society has their own definition of feminine and masculine. So, and I think it begins in the family too. Like, I don't know if you know Parsons, the theorist Parsons.
You know a lot about sociology.
have a BA in it. I should, right?
You almost know more than I do with the masters.
What? Come on! I should know.
You're talking about Talcott Parsons?
Yes, Talcott Parsons.
She's like testing me. Go ahead.
Oh, this is good practice. I want to be an international educator, so this is great practice for me.
Yeah, it's past that point. So
Okay.
there's no one even up in 3. And I'm sure there's people down here trying to sleep. So if you would move now or
Okay,
just
yeah,
talk
sure,
at this
sure.
area, which isn't going to happen at this spot. I mean, you're happy and I
No
don't want to be at that spot.
No,
that's
Oh,
reasonable.
please.
no problem. So should we pause it and we'll get back to it?
Yes.
All right.